Welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film. We explore its themes, its history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I am wearing my black suit, my black tie, my black hat. I got my black Ray-Bans on. And I am also a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
And hi, I'm John Roca. I'm a voiceover artist, a host, writer, producer here in Los Angeles for Collider and for my own stuff as well. And I am also sitting in the passenger seat with Steve, wearing my black suit with my tie, shirt, my hat, sunglasses. It's dark. And we got a full tank of gas.
Half a pack of cigarettes.
And it's dark and we're wearing shades. Hit it. I can't wait to talk about this movie, man.
Me too. I'm really sad about the reason.
Yeah, well, aren't we always sad about the reason we talk about some of these, Steve? You know, we get sad because of the but then again, there is almost a blessing here because we get to revisit a film that we enjoy.
Absolutely. And of course, the reason we're doing this is that we lost the great Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, one of the most incredible voices in popular music in history, I'm going to say, in the world.
Yeah.
I gave me an opportunity to learn a little bit more about her, and I didn't know so much. She is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
She was born in Tennessee in 1942. Family moved to Detroit. She's the daughter of a very, very famous minister named C.L. Franklin, and he was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so much of a big deal that everybody came to her house. Everybody came to. She had Mahalia Jackson at her house. Sam Cooke was at her house. Martin Luther King Jr. was at her house. She had Berry Gordy at her house. Willie Smokey Robinson grew up right near her and was at her house. Right. Everybody came to the Franklin house, and she started singing gospel. You know, pretty much it sounds like right out of the womb, and was so good that at age 12 she was already touring professionally.
Wow.
Yeah, and her father managed her. And by age 14, she recorded her first gospel album. By age 16, she was touring with Martin Luther King Jr. as part of his civil rights church-to-church movement.
Good God, wow.
I mean, that is a remarkable thing. And while she's touring with Martin Luther King, she meets Harry Belafonte. She meets all the people that are involved in the civil rights movement. Yeah. And she becomes associated with the civil rights movement from when she was a kid. I mean, it's just remarkable. And then, it's like when she was in Chicago, who'd she stay with? Well, she stayed with Mavis Staples. Yeah. So like every single person that was part of she grew up with this scene. And the big thing that happened is when Sam Cooke went from singing gospel music to singing popular music, she said, I want to do that. Yeah. And her father, who's her manager, said, great. He was all for it. He loved that kind of music. And who wanted to record her is Berry Gordy. But Dad said, no, you're too small.
Oh,
and
wow.
So they rejected Berry Gordy, even though he had been to their house and grown up with them. Yeah, well, this is like 1961. It's very beginnings of Motown. And so instead they go to Columbia Records, where she's there for 5 years. And she has...
Wait. Who's too small? Berry Gordy's
Berry
too small?
Gordy is too small.
Oh,
she says her dad and Aretha, when she's still a kid.
Yeah,
she's like 18 years old. Says no, we need the big record company. So they go to Columbia.
Yeah,
and it seems like in those 5 years she had songs that were hits, but then nothing major. She was in the charts. She went into the top 40 a couple of times, but didn't have big hits. And then in 1965, I think, or 66, she goes to Atlantic. And that's when everything changes. And it seems like the big thing that changes is that she took charge of her arrangements and she started playing the piano. And the first big one she recorded was I Never Loved a Man the Way That I Love You, which is a great song. And the next thing she records is Respect.
Boom.
And you know what? I cannot believe I didn't know this. I didn't know that's an Otis Redding song.
Yes, it is. It's on his greatest hits CD if you own it or have it.
Yeah, and it's completely different.
It's a completely different. Aretha's is the quintessential.
Well, that's what Otis Redding said.
Yeah,
you heard her version, which has the RESPECT. Yeah. It has the Sock It To Me, and Otis said that's her song now.
Yeah, because it works on double levels. Because A, being a woman, and B, being a black woman. Yeah, like it's just powerful.
Well, and she didn't intend these to be a song that has to do with the civil rights,
right?
But it sure was taken that way.
Yeah.
And after that, you also have Think. She records A Natural Woman, and both of those same thing. They become songs that become anthems of the civil rights, and it's right around then that she gets named the Queen of Soul.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Carole King was a massive fan of Natural Woman. Her version of it is fantastic as well.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, if you haven't seen Aretha's version of Natural Woman on the Kennedy Center Honors, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Is that I'm going to say something I've never said before, which is I would like you to stop listening to the Cine-Files. I would like you to go over to YouTube, do a search for Aretha Franklin, Natural Woman, Kennedy Centers. I watched it again today, and I was literally bawling my eyes out. Yeah. There was something, I cannot believe how powerful it is. So I'm going to take a moment for you to go off and watch that, and then you could come back. Okay, welcome back.
Yeah.
I hope you see what I saw. It is one of the most amazing vocal performances I've ever seen, and this is in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yep.
She is incredible.
I put it on par with Marvin Gaye's version of Yesterday, if you ever heard his version of Yesterday, or his version of the national anthem at the All-Star game for the NBA. These are these incredible performances that move you to tears by these phenomenal singers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in the mid-'70s, Aretha Franklin and a lot of the other R&B singers at the time, they fall on really hard times.
Because it's soul and funk and this kind of dirtier type of R&B, and she doesn't necessarily gravitate. Remember, this is her foundation is gospel, so her stuff wasn't about that.
Well, and popular music had moved into disco.
Yeah, disco,
and they didn't want to hear this kind of stuff, and that really brings us to the Blues Brothers. So but before we get into that, I would like to ask this important question, which is: do you remember how you first came to it?
I'm sure I came to it on a Saturday afternoon, one of those kinds of things when it was on TV for whatever reason, and I watched the cut version for a very long time.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember having a VHS copy of it, like copying it from TV onto a VHS tape so that I could watch it over and over again. The music, the songs, the performances by Belushi, because by that time I'd become a Belushi fan from SNL. So I remember seeing stuff with him. So Animal House, Blues Brothers, and then 1941, which was terrible, and then whatever else he did there before he passed. Continent. I even saw that Neighbors terrible movie.
Neighbors and Continental Divide.
Continental Divide, right? Yeah. Those. So I saw those, but for me, this was the one that is my favorite. I think it's my favorite Belushi film, to be honest with you. And so seeing this and then seeing Aretha doing Think has always stayed with me since this movie.
I love this performance of Think.
To me, it's my favorite version of Think.
Mine too.
Because she had recorded a version, obviously, like you said, years earlier. To have it used this way in the film is really great.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't see it in the theaters, and but when Belushi died, there was, and I was a huge Saturday Night Live fan, and a huge Belushi fan, and a huge Animal House fan. I'd seen that before, but I hadn't seen this for a long time. And then there was, this is so strange, but when I went to high school, there was a guy who was my sister's age, I think, so 3 years older than me, and who was obsessed with Belushi. And when he died, this kid formed the John Belushi Memorial Blues Band, and they played all over Marin County in like the mid 80s. Wow. And so I think I knew about that before I saw the Blues Brothers.
Interesting.
And for me, it's funny. Animal House was my favorite, and I love Trading Places. And I didn't watch Blues Brothers as much.
Okay.
I've certainly seen it a whole bunch and really liked it. But it's funny. I think I had my most fun watching it just this last time.
Oh, wow.
It was just so, and part of it is I watched it, and because I'm a terrible parent, I watched this R-rated movie with my 7-year-old son because I went, look, it's just a lot of swearing and cartoony kind of violence. It's not dealing with any adult things. And he had a ball and I had a ball, and it is so much fun, this movie.
It is
great.
It's a ball of fun. And with incredible respect to these legendary performers, not just Aretha, but Cab Calloway from the 30s and 40s, like bringing him into the modern day at the time when they made the film and giving him a show-stopping number was incredible.
Well, and I think the thing I kept thinking is I kind of went, you know what? I think they are on a mission from God. I think their mission in this movie is to bring back this music and to bring back these singers.
Yeah.
And to give a little history of how this all happened, it really starts with Dan Aykroyd teaching John Belushi about this music. Dan Aykroyd had always been a fan of this music. Belushi had never listened to it. He's into heavy metal. And Aykroyd said, well, you teach me about heavy metal. I'm going to teach you about the blues. And and they started, and Aykroyd, we talked to him a little bit years ago when we talked about Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
And he is an obsessive, nerdy kind of guy, and he was obsessively collecting these records and sharing them with Belushi. And then what started to happen is they started to play a little bit together, and they started to work as kind of the warm-up group for Saturday Night Live. So the Blues Brothers would come out early and kind of warm up the crowd. And then, and actually, from what I understand, Howard Shore, who was the head of the band, the Howard Shore, who later becomes, of course, a great composer, he was the head of the Saturday Night Live band. He gave them their name just kind of as an improv as he's introducing them one day. And they finally end up playing on the show as the Bees, doing the King Bee sketch. And that's the first kind of seeing this musical style, of course, not with the outfits and anything. And more they start developing these characters. Then they start doing the actual Blues Brothers characters on the show. And the first one they did was Carrie Fisher was the guest. The second one was Steve Martin was the guest. And Steve Martin says, I want the Blues Brothers to open for me. And they had been playing little gigs around at little clubs. And finally they go, oh, we're going to have to put together a big band and really go do this. They play together at the Universal Amphitheater. And they record an album from that, and that becomes the biggest R&B album of all time.
Wow.
The Blues Brothers opening for Steve Martin. And this, of course, is like 1977. It's the highest, biggest acts in music are the Bee Gees and ABBA at this point, which is the opposite of the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And right at this moment, Animal House has come out. Saturday Night Live is huge. They suddenly have a lot of juice, and they go to John Landis about making a Blues Brothers movie. And that's how we get to where we are.
Wow.
And Aykroyd wrote the script. He had never written a script before. He didn't really know how you were supposed to do it. So he wrote everything. It was 324 pages.
Sounds about right.
And it had backstories and anecdotes. He had them go to each individual band member and have a story about how they got them all.
Oh, man.
And all this gets handed to Landis, and he has to figure out how to turn this into an actual screenplay. They start shooting without a real script. They start shooting without a real budget.
Wow.
They're in such a hurry. They just start shooting. And after shooting a couple of months, the studio comes to them and says, okay, we've worked out your budget. You have $12 million to make this movie. And the line producer turns to Landis and is like, I think we've already spent that. Because one thing we're going to see is this movie is big.
Yeah.
This is a big film. Would you like to get into the movie?
Hell yes.
We start with some aerial footage of Chicago, and we make our way over to Joliet, the prison. And guards are marching Jake out. What's really interesting to me, and I always forget this about this movie and about the other John Landis movies, is he has a great eye.
Yeah.
There is great shots in this film. And this sequence of marching him out and finally up to Frank Oz to be the guy to give him back his stuff.
And one used prophylactic.
One unused prophylactic. One soiled.
Listen, this is going to be a close to R-rated podcast. Certain things happen in the movie that are very funny. If you have sensitive ears, you might have to listen to an edited version of this episode,
which will not exist.
Which will
I'm
not
not going to edit a second version of this version.
I like that he doesn't have. He has to put his feet behind the yellow line,
and then
has
it's
to
the
lean in to sign it. It's just very funny stuff.
Signs with an X.
Yeah.
And he gets handed what I think are essentially his superhero uniform.
Yeah,
the black sunglasses, the hat, all this black outfit.
That's a great point.
Well, these two guys that we're going to see, they are treated they are superheroes.
Yeah.
On some level. They seem to be invulnerable to injury.
Yeah.
Their car does flips.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some crazy things that are going to happen with these guys.
Mission from God, man.
And we see that Jake has Jake tattooed on his knuckles. We see outside in the car, Elwood pulls up. He has Elwood tattooed on his knuckles. and then we have these shots as the music slowly builds of this backlit, huge prison gate opening, the small figure of Jake inside. And they walk towards each other. And the music is building. And then that music hits on those two close-ups.
Dun, dun. And then they hug. Yeah.
And the song that's playing is our first Blues Brothers track. It's She Caught the Katy.
She caught the Katy, left me a mule to ride.
This is a great point you bring up, Steve, because it's almost like a superhero intro,
Oh yeah.
right? I had never thought of it this way. This is such an incredible way to look at it.
These are epic figures. The Blues Brothers.
They're being introduced with their like names underneath, which is a very unique way to be in. I don't think I've ever seen two characters introduced this way in a film ever.
No, it is. This is important.
And left me a mule to ride.
And one thing we should say is that Belushi's a really good blues singer.
Yeah.
And everyone, like Aretha and Ray Charles and all this was like, that guy's good.
Yeah.
These people that are made that style.
And he didn't want to sing initially. When he started doing comedy, started doing stuff, he was very embarrassed of his voice. He didn't think he had a good voice. He wasn't sure how confident he was about it. Yeah, and it was, obviously other people and a girlfriend, I think at the time, when he was at Second City, who encouraged him to do it. And he would have to get drunk or high. Obviously his drug problems are very well documented. He would have to get to be able to do it until eventually he gained confidence in doing it. And his Joe Cocker is still one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's amazing.
And he got permission from Cocker to do it because obviously Cocker has some sort of a physical thing that he does that is part of his condition, so much so that when Belushi and him they did it on stage together,
they did
which
sort
was
of
phenomenal.
dueling Cockers.
A dueling Cocker was incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they're driving in what we should say is the Bluesmobile.
Yes,
which is an old cop car, a Dodge.
Yeah,
and
you what?
Yeah, Jake's not so happy about it. First of all, the lighter doesn't work, which he just throws out the window.
I love that.
And then, where's the caddy?
The what?
The Cadillac we used to have, the Bluesmobile.
I traded it.
Traded the Bluesmobile for this?
No, for a microphone.
A microphone? Okay, I can see that.
And Elwood, Dan Aykroyd, doesn't seem to be so happy about him criticizing the Bluesmobile.
Yeah.
And they pull up. They're kind of waiting at some traffic that stopped because a drawbridge is opening up. Mm-hmm. And Elwood asks, "So you don't like it?" And he says, "No, I don't like it." And Elwood floors the car, runs up one side of the opening drawbridge, jumps the drawbridge, and lands.
I think because he criticizes that it doesn't have enough torque or doesn't have power.
Doesn't have power. It's wampy.
Yeah.
And then a classic Elwood monologue of,
"It's got a cop motor, a 440 cubic inch plant. It's got cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks. It's a model made before catalytic converters, so it'll run good on regular gas. What do you say? Is it the new Bluesmobile or what?"
And Jake's response is,
Fix a cigarette lighter.
That's a window into their relationship, Steve.
"Oh yeah,
Elwood is always doing the extra thing, going the extra mile, putting himself at risk, all this kind of jazz. And it's always Jake from the sideline judging, being the quintessential asshole leader of the group. And that's just the way their relationship works.
That's what we're going to see over and over and over again. And one thing that's interesting is that Dan Aykroyd took cars very seriously. He was a gearhead. Mm-hmm. He was very specific exactly what kind of car the Bluesmobile would be. Mm-hmm. And what I always forget is that Aykroyd was supposed to play D-Day in Animal House.
Oh, wow.
But SNL wouldn't let him go do it.
Yeah. So Bruce McGill did it.
So Bruce McGill, who's great.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Well, I will say one thing about the Bluesmobile, Steve, before we move on. Growing up in Virginia, Aykroyd's wife, Donna Dixon, they had a house in Virginia.
Oh.
And the original Bluesmobile was parked in the backyard of the house. So you could drive by. It's in one of these wooded areas of Virginia. You could drive by, see the Bluesmobile there in the backyard. They kept it there for people to drive by and see. So every once in a while I would drive by and just have a big stupid smile on my face. So
that's awesome.
yeah, it was fun.
I mean, I put the Bluesmobile with the Back to the Future DeLorean, and you know what I mean? It's like one of those. This is a classic car of film history. And
I will say one of my most heartbreaking moments at Universal Studios was auditioning for the Blues Brothers and not getting the part of Jake.
I didn't know you auditioned for
I
it.
did. I'm not the greatest singer, but I love that movie so much that I wanted to be Jake so bad. My friend John Yelvington, who's now one of the managers at Universal Studios in Hollywood, he did it for years, and I loved watching him do the show, going to see him do the show.
How are your cartwheels?
Back then, I could do them. Hell yeah, not now.
Let's head off to the orphanage to go see the penguin.
Yeah, the penguin, who I love from Dragnet. That actress.
That's
her.
where I know her from.
Yeah.
It is so. They go into this building. They look up the stairs again. This beautifully framed shot from John Landis with this incredibly intimidating crucifix. Jesus looking right down at you.
Yeah, religion is like this very scary thing in the movie.
Certainly with the penguin, it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
The angular staircase. It's very gothic.
Well, I mean, I think he's riffing on The Exorcist. You know what I mean? Like this is, because we go up, they hear her before they knock on the door.
Yeah.
The door opens with nobody helping it. They walk in, the door closes behind them, and the looks between Aykroyd and Belushi at this moment is so funny.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of little good comedy bits. They have to go sit down on those little desks.
The old school desks.
And then she says, "Come closer," and they walk in the desks over there. And we find out, which is the basic plot of the movie, which is they're gonna sell the orphanage. All the kids are gonna end up on the street unless they get $5,000 in 11 days. I think is what it is. And Belushi says, "Okay, $5,000 right now, no problem." And she doesn't want any of their filthy stolen money. And what's Belushi's response?
Well then, I guess you're really up shit creek.
Whack. Yeah. With the ruler.
And then he repeats it. It gets hit, and then Elwood goes, "Jesus!" And then she's hitting both of them.
Christ, Jake, take it easy, man.
Elwood! Oh, Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ! Stop, you bitch!
Good corporal punishment comedy.
I love it. And we're told, in essence, that they grew up in this orphanage.
Right.
So because that's how they know the penguin so well, and they feel that responsibility to help her. Yeah.
Although it doesn't sound like she was a warm, fuzzy character to grow up with.
No, agreed.
But they and then they end up just falling down. Jake ends up just falling down the stairs, getting out of there. Oh, and there's
because he's too heavy. You can't. The desk snaps.
Yeah.
I don't know who did that stunt, but it's scary as hell.
It's a scary
watch.
stunt. Yeah. And of course, the penguin just sort of floats backwards.
That's such a great little effect. That's what I'm saying. The film is it really has a lot of ridiculous moments, but it's so much fun that you can't. If it's your kind of humor, you'll love it.
Well, it's a cartoon.
Yeah,
I mean, like they get a lot from Chuck Jones. I think in this is a lot of Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny kind of comedy going on with live action.
Yeah.
And who do we run into at the bottom of the stairs?
Cab
Calloway.
Boys, you gotta learn not to talk to nuns that way.
He's great in this movie.
Such a stylish dude, man.
Yeah.
And can I stop? And I will stop the podcast right now. I will do what Steve did. If you don't know anything about Cab Calloway, and if you grew up in the '90s and saw the Janet Jackson "All Right" video, that's an homage to Cab Calloway, and Cab Calloway makes an appearance at the end of that music video. If you want, go back and find some old Cab Calloway musical numbers from his movies from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. These were mostly African American or black movies that he was like a star in, or a main attraction, like Harry James was in those movies from that time, or Tommy Dorsey was in the movies from that time,
or Nicholas Brothers.
The Nicholas Brothers. Oh, that's more of the black side of things. But yeah, they would show up occasionally in dance movies, white directed dance movies. But when you go back and find the Cab Calloway stuff, it's mostly in black directed films from black films of that time, and it's great. Like Lena Horne did a bunch of that stuff as well on that side, or Dorothy Dandridge. So there's a lot of stuff you'll find the Cab Calloway, and then you juxtapose it with what he is in the Blues Brothers now. There's such a difference there.
Well, what's interesting is that for most people, you're the biggest thing in the world for a small amount of time. And Cab Calloway was huge.
Yeah, it was huge.
Huge for a certain amount of time. By the 60s, nobody cares about Cab Calloway.
Of course not. Yeah,
you know. And he says, you got to save these orphanage. These kids are going to be out on the street. You grew up here. You owe us. You got to make this happen.
Yeah.
You got to go to church.
You got to go to church, Jake. You get right.
You get right. He didn't want to go to church.
Nope.
But we're going to church.
Yeah.
And there we hear the organ music as we're going in.
Speaking
and there
of musical
we get
legends,
James Brown.
James Brown.
So we got the Queen of Soul
And the Godfather of Soul.
the Godfather. Okay, so this is an impossible question for you to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. James Brown in Blues Brothers versus James Brown in Rocky IV.
Oh, James Brown's Blues Brothers.
I pick Rocky IV.
You do really?
Because I like Living in America is a better.
Okay.
I think is a better song than what he sings in this.
Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're crazy. You're an insane person. This song in this movie is fantastic. fantastic.
It
I think
is.
because I grew up, because you're an atheist, maybe you don't feel a relation to it. But me growing up religious,
Yeah, I love America, and you really don't.
That's right, I don't. But I grew up religious, so to me, this is like old school gospel and fun gospel, and
it's great. I'm not putting it down.
No, I know you're not. And the legend of what you hear people say when you go to black churches that sing this gospel, how they go to another realm of worship, like the fact that, and we'll get to it, but the all the gymnastics involved in this is incredible. Do you see the light?
One thing that I didn't know is that originally this was supposed to be Little Richard.
Not a surprise at all.
I mean, he was a preacher, and he went back and he went from music to the church and back and forth multiple times in his life. But Little Richard was in a churchy phase and was not going to do it, and so they get James Brown, and James Brown kills it.
By the way, one little known fact: if you look in the background of the gospel singer, Shaka Khan is there.
Really?
That is a very young Shaka Khan with her hair. She's the main soloist when you see the gospel singers in the back there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now I have to look at it again.
Yeah.
And he's preaching, and then the music starts, and
Don't get lost when the time comes. Don't get lost when the time comes.
He's a great preacher, by the
He
way.
really is a fantastic
He's
preacher.
perfect.
Yeah.
And Jake starts to shake.
Oh, so good.
Elwood looks at him and is like, "You all right, Jake?" And then the music builds.
Yeah.
And then from outside, the clouds part, the light shines down on the church.
Yeah, man.
Jake is bathed in an ethereal light.
Do you see the light?
And Elwood can't see the light.
Nope.
But Jake has a vision.
Yeah.
And the vision is the band.
Yeah.
The band.
The band! Do you see the light?
What light?
Have you seen the light?
Yes! Yes! Jesus H. Goddamn Christ! I have seen the light!
And after Jake has his vision, he cartwheel and handsprings his way down that aisle and starts to dance. Then he cartwheels and handsprings back to Elwood and tells him,
The band, Elwood! The band!
The band? 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 The band!
The band.
"The band."
The band. The band. Oh.
And then you get Dan Aykroyd dancing.
And he says, "God bless the United States of America."
It's such a classic
It's so
Dan Aykroyd line. That is his sense of humor. And I love the way Aykroyd dances.
Oh God, it's so good.
It's so
The
good.
the running dance. It's so
running, because his body's so angular
Yeah.
and lanky at that time in his life. By the way, the choreographer is a guy named Carlton Johnson, and he choreographed for Carol Burnett, and he choreographed The Wiz,
good. Oh wow.
and he choreographed Dr. Detroit.
One of my closet favorite guilty pleasure movies from the 80s.
It was funny. I rewatched it maybe a year or two ago.
Oh, yeah.
Expecting to just really be ashamed of myself for liking that movie. It still was kind of funny.
It's so much funny. Howard Hessman, Dan Aykroyd, T.K. Carter, Donna Dixon.
Donna Dixon, yeah.
And the actress from, oh God, I can't remember. She's Nell's best friend in Gimme a Break. That actress, she's one of the call girls.
It is a very silly movie.
silly.
It's also maybe the movie where Dan Aykroyd, I think, stands out on his own best.
Yeah, that's
because it's his only one where he's really a lead that kind of works.
And whenever I hear the word Detroit, I always go, Doctor, Detroit. Yeah, it's still in there somewhere.
Oh my God, that's a ridiculous movie.
Anyway.
Anyway, the reason I brought up the choreography is that they had made a decision early that they would have no professional dancers, that they only wanted normal people to dance. And so, like, when you do the scene outside Ray's music, those are all normal people.
Yeah.
And Landis saw the footage and went, "We can't do this normal people thing." And that's why they got all professional dancers to do the James Brown scene.
That's
Because
as well.
There's a lot of stuff.
There is, man.
They're doing serious. And the one other thing I found out is that both James Brown and Aretha And Ray Charles had real problems lip syncing. Normally in a musical, you record it ahead of time,
Right.
and then you have to do the exact performance. But James Brown and Aretha Franklin, they never did the same performance twice.
Not a surprise.
So it was really hard for him, and to the point where James Brown couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so what they did was all the background vocals, all the instrumentation, that's all lip sync. James Brown's performance is live.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's his live performance.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't do the same podcast twice, so it makes sense.
Nor do I ever want to try. So we have our plan. We're going to bring the band back together. We end up back in the car. It seems like this will be easy. We get the band back together. We play a few gigs. We'll have $5,000.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
Except
Yeah.
bands all over the place,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, they all went and took normal jobs.
Yeah.
They took straight jobs. And again, Jake is disappointed. Well, you know where they are. That was your job, was to keep track of the band. And he goes, well, I was just kind of telling you that to keep you happy while you were in the joint. It was the only thing you were looking forward to. And I love his line where he says,
I took the liberty of bullshitting you, okay?
You lied to me.
It wasn't lies, it was just bullshit.
it's a great delivery. And while this conversation is going on, they run a red light. Although really it's a yellow light.
Yeah.
And they get pulled over by the cops.
Yeah.
Cops ask for the license. Cops walk back to the car. Elwood is worried that they have some kind of computer system, which they do.
Yes, they do.
And it says, arrest this guy. Cops come back, ask Elwood to step out of the car. He puts the car in gear, and we're into our first car chase.
And this is the black and white cops who end up through the whole movie. Isn't the same guys? So the black actor there, I can't remember his name right now, but he is the sergeant or the person in charge of 21 Jump Street. He's in charge of all the kids
my God,
at 21
he
Jump Street.
is.
Yep, the same guy.
Shorter hair. Yeah. A little heavier.
Yeah.
Totally. That's hilarious. By the way, there are a lot of people that show up in this film.
Yeah.
we already got Shaka Khan. We already got 21 Jump Street guy.
Yeah.
We had Frank Oz.
We did.
There's going to be more.
James Brown.
There are a lot of car chases in the movie. And
Yes.
they are crazy.
I don't know how they got the budget for all these car chases, especially that last one. My God, the amount of cars they
It
destroy.
is insane.
Yeah.
And now Jake is even more pissed.
First you trade the Cadillac for a microphone. Then you lie to me about the band. Now you're gonna put me right back in the joint.
They're not gonna catch us. We're on a mission from God.
We're going to hear that a lot.
That Chicago accent's great.
They call in more cops.
Yeah.
And Jake and Elwood are arguing through the whole thing. And I love when they get kind of trapped in a big parking lot. And he says,
Well, try not to be so negative all the time. Why don't you offer some constructive criticism?
You got us into this parking lot, pal. Now you get us out.
You want out of this parking lot? Okay.
Right into the mall,
we go into a Toys R Us where a guy wants to buy a Miss Piggy or something.
which is a Frank Oz reference.
And bam, that car comes right through into the Toys R Us.
Yeah.
This scene is crazy. The car chase with multiple cop cars through a mall.
Yeah.
Apparently they found this empty mall. It's up in Harvey, Illinois, I think.
Okay.
And it had closed down 2 years earlier.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Best way to save money, I guess.
Well, and then what they did was they called all the companies they wanted to be in the mall and had them come and actually set up their own stores. So those are real Toys R Us products. There's like a lot of all the recognizable companies, Pier 1 Imports, they went and set it up with their stuff. But what that meant was they had tens of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise that they had to protect, and people kept stealing it. And they hired a bunch of security guards, and they found out it was the security guards who were stealing all the merch.
Working the fence from within, man.
Yeah.
I like that line. The new Oldsmobiles are in. I love that line.
All their little stuff. There's like something about disco haircuts, or I don't know. There's all sorts of things going. Just a little banter between the two of them, because again, they're like superheroes,
Right.
You know, they're not.
Nothing unsettles them.
No, nothing at all. They just keep going forward.
Yeah.
One thing that happened, and it seems like it happened throughout the film, is that during this scene, Belushi just disappeared,
Of course.
and they've shut down, and there's a little neighborhood nearby, and a guy kind of says to Aykroyd, I think I saw Belushi walking over towards that neighborhood. So Aykroyd goes walking down this street, looking around for him, sees only middle of the night. It's midnight or something. Sees only one light on, knocks on the door and says, and the guy who answers goes, "Yeah, he's in here." Yeah, John Belushi's asleep on my couch because apparently he just walked into some random guy's house, went in, raided his refrigerator, drank some milk, made himself a sandwich, and then went to sleep on the couch.
Wow.
Sounds like there was some behavior. And they tell the story like this is really funny. I don't think this was funny.
Well, a lot of people, if you read any biographies on Belushi and watch any documentaries on him, a lot of people in his life say that he violated personal space all the time. He was very much about satisfying himself in whatever situation he was in, but he was still also an incredibly warm-hearted, loving, and vulnerable individual who would do anything for any of his friends. So it was always that kind of dichotomy.
It sounds like he was a lot.
Yeah,
a lot to deal with in the good ways and bad ways.
I'm sure he had a lot of mental health stuff that if he had gotten into a professional, might have been able to help him.
Yeah,
who knows?
But the scene is crazy. We've got cop cars flipping over, spinning over. I think the guy that ends up upside down and says that he broke his watch, I think that's John Landis.
Oh yeah, I think
one of the
I
cops.
think you're right. Yeah,
and I mean the glass that they break, and they had to set everything up for like this is wreckable, this is not wreckable, and sometimes they didn't get the wreckable and not wreckable right.
No surprise.
And then finally they right on the downbeat of the music, they bust out of the J.C. Penney and back onto the street. So here's what's weird about this movie. It is a comedy.
Yes.
It is one of the biggest musicals that had been made, one of the most successful musicals of all time. Mm-hmm. And it's an action movie because there are huge monster action set pieces. Yeah.
It's hard for me to call this film a musical.
It's a musical.
Yeah.
There are people performing music in both as performance, but also as part of the scene.
Yeah.
Think is a musical number.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's only the artists that are performing the songs. None of the actors until the end perform the songs. And it's the Blues Brothers who are already a band before they did the... So this, I don't know, this is more like a Hard Day's Night type of situation. I don't think a Hard Day's Night's a musical. So I get why it's qualified as one. It's hard for me to accept it as one. That's what I think.
Aretha, that is a musical number from a musical. Mm-hmm. That is a character bursting into song in the middle of a scene.
Sure.
But you don't have to call it a musical.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But we can move on.
Yeah, you can sit there in your wrongness, and I can sit over here in my
I don't believe in right or wrong. Go ahead, yeah. It's all perspective.
And they've escaped.
Yes.
And as they escape, we listen to, which we hear many times in the movie, Peter Gunn, Henry Mancini. There's just, all the music is so good in this film. Mm-hmm. Carrie Fisher. It's so weird that she's in this movie in this role.
Yeah.
This is she had probably just finished shooting Empire Strikes Back,
and I think she was in a situation with Belushi, from
Aykroyd.
what I understand. Or was it Aykroyd?
It was Aykroyd.
Okay.
She was dating Dan Aykroyd.
Okay.
At some point, John Landis assigned her to keep the cocaine away from Belushi.
Oh, that was it. That was the relationship they had, right?
Which, assigning Carrie Fisher to keep cocaine away. I mean,
that's true.
I love Carrie Fisher,
the late great Carrie Fisher. Yeah.
And she's smoking. And she has a bazooka.
Yes. Well, Jake did her wrong.
Apparently. She gets the crosshairs right on him, and they duck right at the last minute as she fires, and big explosion, and the hotel door that they were about to go in is completely wrecked. They're covered in dust, and they just stand up, shake it off, go inside.
Go inside. Climb out of the bricks. I love the sound of the bricks. The Foley sounds of the bricks are great in this sequence.
And there's just this little sort of shrug as they go like, all right, I guess that just happened.
Right.
They are unfazed by everything. We go into the hotel lobby. Some guy asks if he got his cheese whiz. It's like one of the weirdest jokes in the movie, which Elwood does have in his back pocket and tosses it to him.
Yep.
And I'm always like, when did he buy the cheese whiz? How long has he had the cheese whiz?
I think he's had cheese whiz since before he picked up Jake.
So do I.
Yeah.
He had that cheese whiz a long time.
Hey, boy, did you pick up my cheese whiz?
Into Elwood's hotel room.
It's a studio.
It is a studio. I was trying to think of a small way to what's smaller than a studio.
Yeah, a junior studio. I guess
studio,
which those would exist.
Yeah, a demi studio.
Sure.
And I love and immediately an L train goes by.
How often does a train go by? So often you won't even notice it.
That is a funny joke.
Yep.
And pretty immediately, Jake's asleep in Elwood's bed, still wearing the hat, still wearing the sunglasses. Yeah, fair point. Next morning, we see that Jake is still in the bed. Elwood has slept in a chair, and Carrie Fisher's back.
Yes.
And now she has some sort of remote control device that she's fiddling with. And she fiddles with that, who shows up but our good friend John Candy.
Yeah.
It's so fun. His part is small, but he sparkles in it.
There's so many cameos in this film, glorified cameos in this film.
And they've got the address somehow that they're going to go see. Because what we've heard is that Elwood is given a false address on his license, which is Wrigley Field, but John Candy got this address. Is that because of Jake's parole or something? I don't know.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they're going up to see them, and they're just about to
Knock on the door.
knock on the door when Carrie Fisher hits the switches on her remote, which she has bombed the whole building. The entire building collapses on them.
So clearly she must have known that they survived the first attack.
Yeah.
So she came back to make sure.
And Jake and Elwood rise up out of the rubble,
That's right. Wipe off the
dust
dust.
themselves off, and head off.
That's right.
Eventually, the cops and John Candy start moving too.
Yeah, that's right. They don't die either.
They don't have quite the the coyote-like healing powers as Jake and Elwood.
Right.
They go to this house, knock on the door. A woman answers, and they're looking for some people, and they give a few names. I think in this scene, you can totally see Dan Aykroyd's love of Dragnet.
Yeah.
Are you the police?
No, ma'am. We're musicians.
It's all that same Joe Friday delivery.
It's a very good point, Steve. Yeah.
And, he asks about their personal habits. And they're very nice boys. And then just as they're leaving, she runs out and says, hey, there's this card.
Yeah.
And that leads them up to the Holiday Inn. And inside, we see someone singing Quando, Quando, Quando with a very cheesy little Holiday Inn band.
Yeah, that organ of his is ridiculous. That red organ.
Man, sometimes you got to play a gig.
Hey, look, you got to feed. You got to get fed, man.
You get money to play a gig. Sometimes you're going to be playing the Holiday Inn outside of Chicago.
Yeah, right. You take that extra work.
And they sit down with these musicians, and what do the musicians want? They want their money.
You got the money you owe us, motherfucker?
Look, let's just get something straight here. The reason he got locked in a slam in the first place was for sticking up a gas station to cover you guys.
Sure. You don't think that's true?
I don't believe a damn word Jake says in this whole movie, dude.
No, nor should you. You are much smarter than Carrie Fisher.
Well, that's love, man.
But what we also see is the power of putting the band back together.
Yeah.
And they are tempted right away. And man, Jake can sell them on this stuff.
Now, who here at this table can honestly say that they played any finer or felt any better than they did when they were with the Blues Brothers? You were the backbone, the nerve center of a great rhythm and blues band. You can make that live, breathe, and jump again.
Performers are performers, Steve.
They want to work.
Yep.
They want to work. And we find out, well, we got to get, Mr. Fabulous, and we got to get Matt Guitar Murphy.
Matt Guitar Murphy.
And which for years I always thought was Mad Guitar Murphy.
Oh.
It's Matt Guitar Murphy.
Right, yes.
And
Blue Lou.
And we find out Mr. Fabulous has got some great gig at a maitre d' at a fancy French restaurant, and that's where we're going to head off next.
This is one of the funniest
This
sequences.
scene is so funny.
It really is.
They walk in, and he is like not happy to see them.
Oh, no. I thought it was supposed to be 5 years. Didn't you get 5 years? No, sir, not you.
And they just walk right in and take a table,
Yeah.
tuck their napkins into their collars, order the finest champagne in the house,
Yeah.
and start just being horrible.
And shrimp cocktails. Well, the reason is because Mr. Fabulous tells him he can't join the band. He won't come back. He's making more money doing this. And they're just like, no, we're okay. We'll just grab a table. And they start doing the like you said, the most terrible things. And they roll up on this couple, this older couple and their kids. And he's like, how much for your women?
The women. How much for the women?
What?
Your women. I want to buy your women, the little girl, your daughters. Sell them to me. Sell me your children.
Maitre d'. Maitre d'.
It's all set to embarrass Mr. Fabulous.
Yep.
So he finally concedes and comes and joins the band.
They just break him down.
They really do. They break him down. Sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
He's just sitting there. Yep. And so now we got Mr. Fabulous.
And these are actual names of some of the, like Matt Guitar Murphy is a
That's
real
his
person.
real nickname.
Blue Lou is a real person, yeah.
So Blue Lou.
And Donald Duck Dunn, real thing.
And by the way, too, we should say these are great musicians.
Yes, they are. And a lot of them are house musicians from the SNL band.
So some of them are musicians from the SNL band. And the person who put the band together is Paul Schaefer.
No surprise.
Yeah, because he was an arranger for SNL at the time. And Paul Schaefer was supposed to be in the Blues Brothers band.
Oh.
And Lorne Michaels wouldn't let him do it.
What?
Yeah.
How are they doing this movie without? It's a rare SNL movie in essence without Lorne Michaels overseeing.
I'll tell you what I think, and I have no evidence for this at all.
Yeah.
I think they took these characters and said, we own these characters. Lorne Michaels doesn't. And then this movie gets made and is a huge, huge hit.
Yeah.
And I think from that point forward, Lorne Michaels goes, no, I'm going to own these characters. And anybody who makes any movies off these characters, it'll be a Saturday Night Live movie.
That's logical, man.
Yeah, that's what I think happened. Yeah, but he wouldn't let Paul Schaefer go. But these guys, I mean, these musicians, they had played in session groups and backing Isaac Hayes and Earth, Wind and Fire and Otis Redding and Aretha and all that. I mean, this is a great band.
Yeah.
You know, I think John Belushi is a really good blues singer and Dan Aykroyd, his vocals are really solid, but I don't think we get the Blues Brothers sound without this band.
Absolutely not.
I mean, this band is awesome.
It's a great band.
Nazis.
I fucking hate Illinois Nazis, man.
It's fun. It's not funny, but this is right at the era of Skokie, the Skokie protests, where the neo-Nazis in Skokie's in Illinois.
Yeah.
And that's a community that was filled with a lot of Jews and a lot of Holocaust survivors. And the Illinois Nazis wanted to march in Skokie right in front of where all these Holocaust survivors were. And this is, I mean, as a Jewish kid, this was a topic at dinner conversations. Should they be allowed to march or should they not be allowed to march? And at the time, I remember my whole family was like, well, no, of course they have to be allowed to march.
Right.
Because it's freedom of speech, and freedom of speech is important, even if it's people saying horrible, awful things.
And even if it's purposefully to incite.
Yep. That was the opinion around the Morris dinner table in 1980. I don't know if the opinion's the same now because things have changed. Yeah. But
you digress.
Yeah, I might cut that whole thing out too, because this has been a fun podcast, and I might have just brought it down a little bit.
It's all right. They put the Nazis in the film. You didn't.
All right, now I might keep it in. And they don't like the Nazis, so what do?
They drive around them, and then they start. Basically, they kind of mess up their protest so much so that the car forces them all to jump off.
They drive right down the bridge they're marching on, and these guys all jump in the river. They are not happy.
No.
They want to get that license plate, and they're going to punish those people if it's the last thing they do.
And they're led by a famous character actor who
Henry Gibson.
Yep, from Laugh-In and any number of things that he
all
was
sorts
in.
of stuff.
Very funny guy.
John Lee Hooker. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, 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 boom.
Boom, 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 boom. How, 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 how. Hey, hey.
This one was recorded live.
Yeah. Well, no surprise. And it's not even a long one. It's just him singing.
Yeah.
It's great.
But you can, and this is the old school.
Yeah, old school blues, man. Yeah.
And he is great. Oh, and here's one. I don't know if you knew this one, which I didn't know. Mr. T is in the background.
What? I did not know that.
A young Mr. T is behind John Lee Hooker in this scene.
Totally gonna go home and put on my Blu-ray.
You'll see him. He doesn't have the mohawk or anything yet. He's got kind of sideburns, but he's still you can see him.
How fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jake and Elwood kind of listen to that appreciatively. And as they're leaving, there's some argument about who actually wrote this song. And there's some other old, probably blues musicians that they start fighting with as we go into the Soul Restaurant and see the reason for this podcast, Aretha Franklin.
Yes.
This scene is so good.
And she's so good. And
she's great. I wonder why she didn't act more.
Yeah.
Because she's really good in this scene.
Is.
Got any fried chicken?
Best damn chicken in the state.
Bring me 4 fried chickens and a Coke.
You want chicken wings or chicken legs?
4 fried chickens and a Coke.
And some dry white toast, please.
You want 4 whole fried chickens
and a Coke.
And dry white toast.
And then she goes back to Matt Guitar Murphy and Lulu in the kitchen and says,
"We got 2 honkies out there dressed like Hasidic diamond merchants.
Say what?
They look like they're from the CIA or something."
What they want to eat?
The tall one wants dry white toast.
Elwood,
And the other one wants 4 fried chickens and a Coke.
And Jake, the Blues Brothers. Oh, man.
It's so great.
I love this movie so much, man.
It's so funny. I love Elwood's obsession with toast.
Yeah, right?
It just comes up a couple of times. So we go out to see them, and there's a little conversation about prison food, which isn't that important. And then we hear we're getting the band back together, and we need you both.
Don't talk that way around here. My old lady, she'll kill me.
Ma'am, you gotta understand that this is a lot bigger than any domestic problems you might be experiencing.
And Mac Guitar Murphy says, "Don't get riled, sugar."
Don't get riled, sugar me. Now, you're not going back on the road no more, and you ain't playing in them old two-bit sleazy dives. You're living with me now, and you're not gonna go sliding around with your old white hoodlum friends.
To which his response is, "But these are the Blues Brothers."
The Blues Brothers? Shit.
What I love, this is this thing about this movie is like these weird white guys dressed in these black outfits, wearing these playing African-American music, and they are the Blues Brothers. And there is something that everyone acknowledges that this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, right. It's white boy blues.
Yeah. And Jake says, "Would it help if you knew that what we're asking Matt to do is a holy thing?" And again,
don't you blaspheme in here. Don't you blaspheme in here. Aretha's so great in this scene.
She is. And she's laying down the law.
Now, this is my man, this is my restaurant, and you two are gonna just walk right out that door without your dry white toast, without your 4 fried chickens, and without Matt Guitar Murphy.
And he says, "I'm the man, and I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with my life." And
Matt Guitar Murphy is a terrible actor.
He's not good.
He's really
What's
not
so fun,
good.
you could totally see him almost breaking throughout this whole thing. Like there's part of him that just thinks it's so funny that he's here and he's having so much fun.
Yeah.
And in the dance number too, like he's like, there's part of his like going, "I'm in a dance number with Aretha Franklin." That's what the expression that he has on his face.
Yeah.
And yet it's okay.
Of course.
And she says, "You better think."
You better think about what you're saying. You better think about the consequences of your actions.
Oh, shut up, woman.
And then we go into the song.
Yeah.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Yeah, think, let your mind go, let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go way on the back way. I didn't even know you couldn't have been too much more than 10. I ain't no psychiatrist, I ain't no doctor with degrees. It don't take too much IQ to see what you're doing to me.
I agree with you. This is my favorite version of this song.
Absolutely.
It is so good. And I love the simple dance number that's happening and Blue Lou playing his sax up on that counter.
It's so great.
It's great.
And she adjusts the lyrics from the original version for this version. So it's really great. Yeah.
It fits right in.
Yeah.
It fits right in. Her performance is, I mean, she's only on screen for 7-8 minutes probably. And it's electrifying.
Absolutely
She's great
memorable.
every second she's there. And I love first there's the moment where the Blues Brothers kind of go, "Ooh, they're having a fight. Let's not let's kind of this is feeling sort of awkward."
In that first verse they turn away, and then in the second, and then when they come back around, which is great camera work by Landis, pulling the camera back, and then the Blues Brothers turn around to join the ladies who've been doing the background dancing for Aretha.
And they just jump right into that that dance, and it's great.
Freedom.
That was good. Maybe you shouldn't audition for Jake for Universal. You should have been one of the backup singers for Aretha.
Maybe I'd have been happy dressed as a cook, being the backup singer.
There you go. And she finishes her big number, and she ends it with a big, powerful finale, pointing her finger at Mac Guitar Murphy, who stands up, takes off his apron, drops it in front of her, and says, "Let's boogie." And out they walk.
It's a real weird ending, man.
It is.
Right? Because she goes, "Thank," and then it's quiet, and you think she's won him over.
Yeah.
It's over. And he just like takes everything off, grabs and let's boogie. And then she's left standing there, and Blue Lou's looking at her like a puppy dog, and she goes,
Well, go ahead, damn it.
And then we have from her, her last line is, "Shit." I mean, I don't think you can overestimate the powerful draw of the Blues Brothers.
Of course not.
All these guys want to play for him. You get the sense that playing with the Blues Brothers is the greatest musical experience of their lives. And they actually, because they put up with a lot of shit in order to be with the Blues Brothers.
And it isn't just those two guys, it's the band.
It's the whole band.
Playing
right.
with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That they have put together something magical.
Yeah.
We have a quick cut to a nice beauty salon called the Curl Up and Dive Beauty Salon. And Carrie Fisher is doing her nails while reading a manual on flamethrowers. As you do.
Oh, man. Hell hath no fury.
Let's go get some instruments.
Yeah. Oh, this is my favorite number of the whole movie.
It's really good.
Yeah. I mean, nothing against Aretha, the reason we're doing this. But this is my
we can't have it, there is no battling between James Brown, Ray Charles, and Aretha Franklin.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
exactly.
They're all the legends. I would put on an album of any of theirs right now and listen to it there. I love them all.
Yeah.
We're checking out some instruments. What does Elwood see? Nice little toaster oven. What I love is that he has some white bread in his pocket to sort of test it out.
Just random shit, man.
Kid tries to steal something.
And the blind man shoots the guitar.
This is a classic early 80s joke, I think.
Yep.
I remember when Stevie Wonder was on Saturday Night Live, they did the constant blind man sort of jokes.
Well, Eddie made a whole set out of it in his first couple of albums.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's making those jokes today. And now we're talking about the piano, and is there enough action left on these keys? And it's like, no, that's all worn out. If Ray Charles sits down.
Excuse me, I don't think there's anything wrong with the action on this piano.
Yeah, man.
Well, I heard about the fella you've been dancing with all over the neighborhood.
I love Ray Charles so much.
Shake Your Tail Feather. Such a fucking great song, man.
Bend over, let me see you shake your tail feather. Bend over, let me see you shake your tail feather. Come on, let me see you shake your tail feather. Come on, let me see you shake your tail feather.
I acted in a musical in high school where we did Shake Your Tail Feather.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's a good song, isn't
Our
it?
version was not as good. It's a great dance number.
Yeah, it is, man.
It is really fun. I disagree with John Landis about I like the amateur dancers doing
loved
Shake
it
Your Tail
too.
Feather.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
All the different call outs for the dances is great.
Yeah.
And it's relatable. And I think that's why it's my favorite sequence, because it feels like you could be in that. You would want to have that moment where you're all of a sudden caught up in essentially a flash mob, what we discovered were flash mobs a couple of years ago, and who having these whole everybody around you dancing with you. It's awesome.
And you can watch all these people dance in perfect choreography and still not say this is a musical.
Right. I can't. It's not. But all right.
By the way, it also was the middle of winter when they shot this. It was like 25 degrees out, and they're all in short sleeve shirts and dresses, and they would, between every take, they would have all blankets and heaters and all this stuff to warm up, and then have to pretend that they're having this great fun summer dance. And Ray Charles finishes his song, and there's a pause, and he says, "Okay, we'll take these axes."
Naturally, and as usual, I gotta take an IOU.
What's great about this sequence too, Steve, is how the band is getting into it.
Oh yeah,
you know the what's his face playing the tambourine with his weird chicken leg dance that he's doing, and they're all doing the kick with the guitar, Mac Guitar Murphy, and the kick and everything that they're doing. Yep. You see them coming together as a band as well, which is a real subtle thing that's happening through the movies. Them coming together as a band.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're at a Howard Johnson's. We have 2 cars now. Mm-hmm. All the band members are going, okay, where's the gig? Jake goes, don't worry. I just got to make a phone call. I love Belushi's sort of positive energy talk.
Yeah.
I'm convincing you that this is going to be great. And they walk over to the phone booth, and Elwood's going, what are we making a phone call for? And they say, well, we're going to call our old manager, and he's going to get us some gigs.
Yeah.
And it ends up, they only have a quarter left. That's all the money they have, which is enough to make a phone call. They get to the phone booth, which is right next to a big flammable, gas tank.
Gas tank for some reason.
Yeah. And who pulls up? Like Carrie Fisher?
Carrie Fisher.
With a flamethrower. Right. Fires at the phone booth. It explodes. The phone booth goes straight up in the air. This is full like Roadrunner Coyote kind of comedy.
Yeah. Crashes
down. They get up, they dust themselves off, and notice there's probably $9 in change in here. The Nazis track the license down. They got the address, and they show up at Wrigley Field.
I love that shot from below.
Oh, it's great.
It's so funny when you with the.
I'm telling you, Landis has a great eye.
Oh yeah.
Now we're driving and everyone's going, okay, where's the gig? We've been driving 3 hours. And he goes, oh, don't worry, it's right here. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
We're at Bob's Country Bunker. Tonight only, the Good Old Boys.
What a great name for a country band, the Good Old Boys.
Blues Brothers. It should read, tonight only, the Blues Brothers' triumphant return.
And they pull up. They say, hey, get the stuff out. Jake and Elwood go inside. And again, you get that John Belushi just full, we're the Good Old Blues Brothers band.
Mm-hmm.
We may be sucking back a few beers a little later on. We'll be here all night. You see, we're the band.
And they ask what kind of music they play here.
Oh, we got both kinds. We got country and western.
That was a good joke for me in 1982. And Bob tells them to get their steel guitars all set up. And now we're set up, getting ready for the gig. And the first thing we notice is I don't think we know any of these songs on this list. And Jake goes, well, those are just suggestions. Let's go right into Give Me Some Lovin'. They go into it. Immediately, people start booing.
Yep.
And we should say that the stage is surrounded by a chicken wire fence, which is good because they're getting a lot of beer bottles and glasses thrown at them.
And apparently this was actually really what would happen at some of these harder edge country bars. That this is their way of expressing their disapproval, throwing beer bottles, having them shattered.
Terrifying.
Yeah, very terrifying.
And Bob isn't happy, and the crowd isn't happy, and Bob finally turns all the lights off, and the band's going,
Hey, why'd they turn off the lights? Maybe they blew a fuse.
I don't think so, man. Those lights are off on purpose.
And there's this moment of what are we going to do? And the answer is Rawhide.
Rawhide, yeah. The old Rowdy Gaines number.
And I love, too, they go like, what key? And it's like, oh, A, good country key. Which I'm sure is true.
Yeah.
And the Rawhide performance is amazing.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Rolling, 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 though the streams are swollen, keep them doggies rolling, rawhide. Rain and wind and weather, hell bent for leather, wishing my gal was by my side.
Dan Aykroyd is great.
Oh, yeah.
And I love Jake just standing there like a statue until he comes in with the load him up.
Move him on. Got him out. And then the whip.
Yeah, finds a whip.
Somehow through the chicken wire, he takes some lady's cigarette out of her mouth with a whip.
And people are up on tables dancing.
Yeah.
Of course, they're still throwing beer bottles at them, but now they're doing it in joy. They have won this crowd over instantly.
I can't imagine cleaning this place every night. Good God.
Oh my God.
That's so much glass.
A lot of blood on the floor with all this broken glass.
Probably.
Yeah. You know what? You don't want to have John McClane run through that place. And then we go into Stand By Your Man.
Great old school Tammy Wynette song.
It's great.
Fantastic.
Well, and hearing Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi sing it in good harmony.
Yeah.
With wonderful choreographed hand gestures.
Very sweet, vulnerable delivery from these two dudes.
Stand by your man. Give him 2 arms to cling to and something warm to come to when nights are cold and lonely.
It is a well done song. It
is.
And it's really funny. And we have all these cutaways to couples toasting each other.
Getting
a
emotional.
sad guy with a beer just crying
right
in his beer.
Oh, so good.
And Jake and Elwood of the band are drinking lots of beers themselves.
Yeah.
And we've come to the end of the evening. And for our 27th performance of Rawhide,
Yeah, I wonder how many times they went back and forth between these two songs.
I bet they must have come up with some more stuff.
Sure, if you say so.
Have you listened, by the way, to the all the Ray Charles country western tracks?
Seven Spanish Angels is one of my favorite country songs, and he wrote that with Willie.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he asked Willie to be a part of it.
I mean, what's weird that I've learned talking to musicians is like the barriers between these genres and the hatred that rock people have for country western or vice versa. That doesn't apply to most musicians.
Most of the great artists don't lean into any of that stuff.
No, they're like, that's great.
Yeah, they
guy's
respect
great.
the musicianship of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're ready to get their money for tonight. They're going to get paid $200. Unfortunately, they drank $300 worth of beer. And I love the line. It's like, well, they never charged us for the first one, so I just figured beer was complimentary for the band.
No.
So he goes, I'll go take up a collection with the boys. And they go out to the band, and the band is already going like, we should quit.
Yeah.
You know, they're ready to go. And yet Jake still convinces them, even though he's like, they want us to pay for the beer. You guys got to split. He still convinces them to try one more time.
Yeah. The next gig is going to be incredible.
Yeah. And who should pull up at that moment but a big old RV with the good old boys?
The good old boys.
Why are the good old boys pulling up at like 1 a.m. for their gig?
That's true. A little late. You know how the world, country and Western life is. Led by Charles Napier.
Yep. Who's really funny in this.
He's so great in this.
And Jake comes up and asks them for their union cards. And I don't know if you're going to be able to play here. And then he says, let me go talk to Bob about it. And he goes to talk to Bob, tells Elwood, get in the car, start it up, goes to Bob and says, oh, of course we're going to pay you. My brother is writing up an American Express check for you right now. You know what? I usually sit next to him and I sign it. Just give me 1 second. He gets in the car and they take off.
That's right.
And we're into another kind of car chase.
Yeah. I didn't know RVs could be in a car chase.
Apparently,
I don't know how
well,
fast
particularly
RVs.
later when you get epoxy on the accelerator.
Yeah, good point.
They drive away. The RV is following them, and they load up a shotgun. They shoot out that back window.
Our Lady of Blessed Acceleration, don't fail me now.
And sitting behind a big billboard is our friend the cops.
Yep. Again.
And they see that Dodge go by, and they go, I can't believe it. And they pull out, and what happens?
Slam right into the RV.
Flips both of them over. Cops draw guns, put it on the good old boys, and says, you boys are in big trouble.
Boys, you in big trouble.
We're in a steam bath talking to Maury Slime.
Yeah. The great Steve Lawrence.
Yeah. And they're going, we need a gig to make $5,000 fast. It's like, you can't. What are you going to do? Are you doing that same old act?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you guys get some jumpsuits or plain jeans or something? Because the musical world has changed. And they say, well, there's this Plaza Ballroom. It's at a big hotel up at the lake, like a vacation place. You fill that place, you can get the money that you need.
Right.
And they go, great, book it. We'll fill it. He's like, no, you can't do this that fast. It takes a little time to exploit it. And like Elwood's line, I've been exploited my whole life. I know how to do it. And what do? They blackmail him.
Yeah, blackmail. I wonder if Mrs. Maury would want to know. You blackmailing me, Jake? We need the money, Maury.
Well, they are on a mission from God.
That's right.
And he finally agrees, and they go, come on, boys. And then we have that's a comedic shot setup of all of the Blues Brothers in towels, sitting all next to each other up in the corner of the steam bath.
So funny.
That is a good visual joke.
For those of you who don't remember Steve Lawrence, him and Edie Gourmet, very famous married couple, both incredible performers in Vegas, friends of Frank Sinatra. And Lawrence was on the Carol Burnett Show for many seasons, doing recurring roles and sketches with her that were very, very funny.
I really wonder how they got all these people in this movie.
I think it's SNL, the SNL connection, man.
I guess so.
I think at that time, it's just like, oh yeah, I'll be in a funny little movie with you guys. Why not?
Back at the orphanage, Cab Calloway is talking to the kids saying, we got to get the words on the street. Yeah. And we go into a montage to Fats Domino, I'm Walking.
I'm walking, yes indeed, I'm talking, but you and me, I'm hoping that you come back to me.
And Elwood steals this big, huge speaker, mounts it on top of the Bluesmobile, and they go out and start telling everybody to come to see this show. Yeah. It's really funny.
You in the light.
You on the motorcycle.
On the motorcycle, that's right.
You two girls, tell your friends. Free parking. Free parking.
The kids are handing out posters. That we have this montage where the kids are all saying the spiel.
Yeah,
we see James Brown gets a poster. We see Aretha Franklin get a poster.
with that just like indignation on her face.
We see Ray Charles put a poster up.
Upside down.
Upside down. Another blind joke.
By the way, you can make blind jokes.
Sure. Right. Well, I think people would be reluctant to make that joke today.
I think if a blind person was doing the joke,
sure,
that's why they got away with it. Because Ray was always very funny about his blindness.
And the good old boys see some graffiti about this gig at a public urinal, and it's time to head off to the gig. Out of gas.
Yeah, son of a gun.
At the hotel, they're waiting. It's starting to fill up.
Mm-hmm.
They push the car into a gas station. The band shows up and looks around, and man, this is a big place. Then we going to be able to fill it? And this is where Cab Calloway says, well, we got a lot of children depending on it. And I think this is the first time the band heard any of that.
Yeah.
Which surprises me, because you would think that Jake would have used that, but maybe not, because that also means the band's not getting the money.
You're right.
But finally they push into this gas station. The attendant comes out and says, we're out of gas. And they're like, yeah, we're out of gas. And he's like, no, the gas station's out of gas. The truck is late. And up pulls a Jaguar with Twiggy.
Yeah.
Who was a blonde model from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
People are now pouring into this hotel. Mm-hmm. Cab Calloway's looking at his watch. Elwood's talking up Twiggy. And finally the tanker shows up. And back at the hotel, John Candy shows up with some cops.
Yep.
And some more cops. And the good old boys show up with axe handles.
Yeah, man. They're ready to battle.
Yep. Elwood fills Twiggy's tank of gas and says, that'll be $94. She gives him $95 and tells him to keep the change. And he tells her, maybe you want to meet me at a motel later on.
And she's on a date or something like that, but it doesn't work out.
Jake looks at his watch and finally realizes, oh, we're late. We got to get to the gig. Mm-hmm. The crowd is now starting to get mean. The band is getting nervous. And the Bluesmobile is pulling through a tunnel. And they're talking about, we got to keep it together. We have to get that gate money, get it to the Cook County assessor by tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. And the camera pans up, and we see that above them, they are surrounded by cops.
Yep.
Now the crowd is chanting, we want the show. And the band is ready to leave. Yeah. Because Jake and Elwood are a no-show.
Screw this, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like, in, out, make a decision.
And Cab Calloway says, do you know Minnie the Moocher? And they go, yeah, so what? And he goes, hit it, and turns around, and he's suddenly dressed in the white tux.
Fantastic.
And the band is on the bandstand,
So
all in
great.
white, and we go into the classic performance of Minnie the Moocher.
Hey folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a low-down hoochie coocher. She was the roughest, toughest frail, but Minnie had a heart as big as a whale.
Which is one of Cab Calloway's famous songs from that time in the 30s.
Yeah, it is
40s.
his
signature song. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's funny is he didn't want to do it this way.
Oh.
John Landis, he says, okay, we want you to do Minnie the Butcher. And he says, well, what style do you want me to do it in? And it's like, well, we want you to do it the old style. It's like, why would you do that? He just released it as a disco song.
Oh, God.
He had released it every time music taste changed. He had redone Minnie the Moocher. So he released a cha-cha Minnie the Moocher.
What?
He released a tango Minnie the Moocher. He released a twist Minnie the Moocher and a disco Minnie the Moocher because he's trying to stay current. And so now it's, they're shooting in 1979 to be released in 1980. And he goes, I'm not going to release that old thing. Nobody's going to want it. Let me do the disco version. And Landis says no. And they go to the recording studio and he records a old school version and comes out and Cab Calloway's kind of grumpy and he goes, what do you think? And Landis is like, honestly, I didn't like it. That wasn't very good.
Yeah.
I want you to really do it. Go full on. He's like, and Cab Calloway sarcastically goes, oh, you want it good? Okay. And then he goes back in and just destroys it, just nails it.
Wow.
And actually has a good time. And that is the version that he lip syncs to.
That's great.
In this. And it is great.
It is great. Seeing him in the suit again is fantastic.
Oh,
the hair flipping over, which is what he was known for, the wild hair of his. Seeing all of that, the move with the arm down, almost with the finger pointing, all of those things. Plus, it's a great song, Steve.
It is.
It's such a great song. And it's an uncomfortable. It's about cocaine and this woman being hooked on the drugs from love and all this kind of jazz, what happens to her. But it's a fantastic song.
Yeah, this performance is great. The audience eats it up.
Yeah, of course they do.
I'm always kind of going like, well, it's a fantasy.
Right.
Is the audience really eating it up? And I kind of go, I'm decided to believe that yes.
Absolutely.
They totally eat it up.
Good music is good music.
And while that's happening, we have Jake and Elwood doing very cartoony, sneaking around behind the cops, past the cops, trying to get
into the bathroom.
John Candy asked if the other cops want orange whips. Orange whip?
Orange whip?
Orange whip. 3 orange whips. What's so great? We forgot another cameo, which is Paul Rubens is the waiter in the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
We got a brief Pee Wee Herman appearance.
We did.
And what's so funny is like having these brilliantly funny people in these bit parts makes them shine.
Mm-hmm.
We wrap up Minnie the Moocher, and I love the moment where he's kind of finishes in the white, and then he turns back, and we're back in the black, and we're out of the fantasy.
Yeah.
It's a really nice moment.
Poor men, poor men.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The guys have snuck into the place. They make eye contact with Cab Calloway. He starts the band up, and they go into this intro music.
I love this intro music. It's a very 70s like intro music.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
The cops are like, well, let's arrest these guys. And John Candy's like, well, I've never heard him play.
I mean, just randomly, like, not yet.
Let's just wait a little bit. Cab Calloway introduces them. I love his introduction. Back after an exclusive 3-year tour of Europe, Scandinavia, and the subcontinent.
The subcontinent. Just great.
And they come in. We have the classic handcuff to the briefcase, undo the handcuff, pull out the harmonica. John Belushi does a big flip, which not John Belushi.
Thank God.
And they land it, and they stick it, and the music stops, and there's dead silence.
Yeah.
And they're
literally crickets.
Yeah, and they're staring at the blank faces of a dead audience. There's a bit of an awkward moment, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're into Everybody Needs Somebody.
Yeah, great song.
It's a great song, and their performance is great, and they win over the crowd.
Yeah.
And during the song, they call out to they welcome all the members of law enforcement that are there. And they're all these you. And one of them, I love the contact with the good old boys guy with Napier who goes,
yeah.
You.
Yeah. And the Belushi one.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean the John Candy one and the Belushi.
John Candy one.
And John Candy laughing.
And again, it's a great number.
Yeah.
The second song is Sweet Home Chicago.
Oh, good song.
It's a good song. I don't like it as much as everybody.
No.
Yeah. But it's really good. And they kind of end up backstage, and there's a big guy there who says he wants to record him, gives him a contract, and not only that, he has $10,000 in cash right with him.
Just happens to have it.
Not only that, but he also knows the secret ways to get out of this place because he used to be a bouncer here. This is a useful guy to have show up at the last minute. This is totally like...
This is Deus Ex Machina, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. We cannot figure out how to resolve this. Let's just have a dude there.
I guess the whole film is
And they say,
Deus Ex.
okay, give this money to the band, give this money to raise music so we pay for the instruments, and we're going to keep this money because we have to get out of here to get to the Clerk County assessors. And I'm like, why didn't they give him $5,000 to go to the Clerk County assessors? If he's going to do these other money errands.
Oh, good point.
It would be, and of course the reason is because then we wouldn't have as much fun.
That's true.
Because they sneak out the back while the band keeps playing, and slowly but surely people start to realize, where are they?
Mm-hmm.
By which point our guys are down in this tunnel with Carrie Fisher.
Yep.
And a machine gun. She is not a good assassin.
No, because she still loves him. She can't shoot him.
Do you think she's purposely missing?
Yes.
Okay. And they're still going like, who is this person?
That's right, which is so great. The mystery throughout the whole movie is we don't know who Carrie Fisher is.
And it ends up that Jake stood her up at the altar.
At the altar.
She stayed celibate for him. And apparently her family went deep into debt to pay for this very, very big wedding, and he didn't show for her.
Yeah.
And I love there's a moment where Jake kind of gives a little nod like, I got this handled. And he stands up and he walks over and he drops to his knees. Please.
Totally what you wouldn't expect.
Totally.
Right? Because he'd been so smooth talking to everyone else.
I ran out of gas. I had a flat tire. I didn't have enough money for cab fare. My tux didn't come back from the cleaners. An old friend came in from out of town. Someone stole my car. There was an earthquake. A terrible flood. Locust. It wasn't my fault, I swear to God!
I love how he holds the God.
And then the look.
Yep.
Takes those glasses off. It's really the first time we've actually seen his eyes in the whole film.
Good point.
And Carrie Fisher melts.
Oh, Jake.
There's a big romantic movie kiss. And then he says, let's go.
Let's go. Drops her.
He just drops her in the mud.
I know. Any ladies listening to us on this pod, I'm sure you've dated a jerk like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is really horrible.
Yeah.
And it is really funny.
Yes, it is.
And I love the awkwardness as Elwood kind of...
Sorry.
And what I love too, by the way, is that apparently Jake had someone who was going to marry him that his brother didn't even know about.
Yeah, true. Well, you don't tell everybody everything.
Sure. I thought the Blues Brothers were close. Oh, one thing I missed.
By the way, we never know if they're actual brothers.
It's a good point.
They might just be these greatest friends who in essence are brothers and met in an orphanage.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
One thing that we missed is that Elwood had gotten some epoxy and he had glued the accelerator to the floor of the RV and then put glue on top of the pedal as well.
Yeah.
That's important because the good old boys are coming out of the place now and they're getting in the RV.
Yep.
And then Jake and Elwood in the Bluesmobile, and we hear...
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Hit it.
That is classic.
Yep.
And they pull out. Carrie Fisher opens fire on them. All the cops open fire on them, and cops pull out, and we're into another monster car chase.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest ones. It's funny, we did Midnight Run a little while ago, and I commented on, this is the time in the 80s where you would have a whole bunch of cop cars wrecked.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing like the Blues Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Our good old boy realizes his foot is stuck to the gas pedal, and they blaze through a bunch of trucks, and then they fly into a lake. Twinkie's still waiting at that motel.
Yeah.
So Elwood would have gotten laid, I think, tonight.
He would have, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And now it's dawn. We've been driving through the night, and the Blues Brothers are followed by a ton of cop cars now. Here's what I found out. So they bought 60 cop cars to wreck for this movie.
Wow.
At $400 a piece.
Well, it's not too bad.
It seems like a pretty good deal.
Right.
There's a roadblock. There's a guy getting on the radio talking about the Blues Brothers, and who's listening to their radio is our Nazis.
That's right.
And I love that Jake is kind of falling asleep, and Elwood goes, I got to pull over. And they go down this embankment, and a whole bunch of cars go rolling and flipping down this embankment. And of course, one of the cop cars is John Candy and our two guys, and they jump that cop car right into the back of a truck.
That's right.
And Candy goes,
Hi. Want to hand me the mic? Thanks a lot. Hi, this is car, what number are we? 55. Car 55. We're in a truck.
I love Candy's joy.
I know.
And now and by the way, now we see that there are mounted police coming after them. They're dispatching boats. The guy on the radio says that use of unnecessary violence has been approved.
I love that delivery from that guy too.
They blast right through the roadblock and they end up on Lower Walker Drive, which we talked about in The Dark Knight.
That's right.
Same place that big chase scene happens. I think this chase scene is just as epic.
Yeah, I would agree
in its
with
own
you.
way. And we're heading off to Richard Daley Plaza. And there's a moment where Jake goes, oh, that's where they have the Picasso. Because they are not fazed by anything. They go up a ramp. There's a car that's blocking the ramp, and they jump over that car, knocking off the lights. And then a whole bunch of cop cars come up, and they don't make it over, and they flip over this car. They knock it over. There's just wrecking car after car after car.
Incredible how many cars they wreck.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And they look down at the speedometer, and it says 110 miles an hour. Yeah. John Landis says they really went 110 miles an hour. I don't really believe him.
Wow.
That's a crazy speed.
Yeah.
And not necessary. Because cars you could make a car look like it's going fast and not necessarily be going that. But he says they went that fast. I just have notes of like more cop cars flip. Ridiculously huge pile of cop cars. Cops opening fire.
Yep.
And then who sees them? The Nazis.
That's right.
In a Pinto.
As you would drive if you were a Nazi, a Pinto.
And what music plays?
Wagner.
Yeah, Ride of the Valkyries.
Right.
Apocalypse Now style. And one of them's leaning out the window, firing with his pistol.
And I think it's on purpose, because if I remember correctly, and maybe I'm wrong here, but Wagner was a hardcore racist, like very pro-white.
Oh, yeah. And the Nazis loved Wagner.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I think Nazis love Wagner. Wagner's always been very high on the Nazi hit parade.
Yeah.
And as they're firing, something hits the motor or something happens, and there's a big explosion of smoke out of the front, and Elwood says, oh no, we've thrown a rod. And Jake says, is that serious? So Jake doesn't know a lot about cars. And now they're just trying to clean the windshield, and Jake's like leaning out. It's still funny. And Elwood's leaning out of the car, and they're trying to get it cleared. They go onto this bridge where there's road construction and through a whole bunch of barriers. And one of the Nazi cars kind of stops at that point, and they keep going. And finally they reach the end of the ramp, slam on the brakes, almost go off the ramp. And then this is where we really leave the world of physics behind.
Yes.
At this point. They put the car into reverse, and then for some reason, the car literally does a backflip flips over backwards, flies above the Nazis in the Pinto to land perfectly facing the other direction.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And the Nazis, distracted by that, jump off this ramp and go up.
Yeah. My God.
Entirely defying gravity. And then they finally start to come down where they fall for apparently like 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Like you could see they're taller than the Sears Tower. Which they really were. They lifted up. They took a Pinto up with a helicopter,
Holy shit.
1,200 feet.
Wow.
And dropped it.
Oh my God.
And it was so dangerous that the FAA made them do tests and certify the aeronautics of a Pinto because they wanted to make sure that they could hit the right spot, that it wouldn't float or glide.
Yeah.
And so they had to do Pinto dropping tests. And they finally do drop this Pinto in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a huge hole in the ground. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And right before they hit the bottom, the one Nazi turns to the other Nazi and says,
I love you. I've always loved you.
I've always loved you.
Yeah.
Making our last moments on Earth terribly, terribly awkward.
That's right. As it should be.
Yeah. And the other Nazi falls right into the same hole.
Yeah.
The one that had left. All right. We've reached Frank Daly Plaza. They drive, and we have even more cop cars behind them. Mm-hmm. They drive through the building, which is really one of the city buildings in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy that they got allowed to do all
Yeah, they
this
got
stuff.
away with all this stuff, yeah.
I mean, yeah. They stop, they get out of the car collapses.
Yeah, that's right, as it should.
That is the end of the Bluesmobile.
Yeah.
Apparently there were 13 different Bluesmobiles.
Oh, wow.
To do different jobs, because some of them were able to do some different kinds of stunts. Some were built for shooting. Mm-hmm. One of them built to just completely fall apart.
Yep.
Elwood takes off his hat. We have a moment of silence for the Bluesmobile.
Come on.
And then they go inside. As soon as they get inside, they close the door. They start piling up furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And more cops appear. And more cops appear. Fire truck.
SWAT team.
Hut, hut, hut,
Yeah,
hut.
I love that.
By the way, I've rarely stolen things, but I was writing an animation script that was a satire, and I put the huts in. They ask some guy where the assessor's office. He gives them some directions, and as he does that, the cops are starting to burst through the doors, and now we see the army is showing up.
Yeah.
With tanks, their helicopters. It is crazy.
Yeah.
So you remember when I said that they found out their budget was $12 million, and they said we're already spent $12 million? Well, I had to look up actually how much this movie cost.
Oh, God.
$30 million.
Wow.
To put that in perspective.
Almost triple the budget.
To put it in perspective, another movie made that same year cost $18 million, and that movie is The Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
So this movie
Holy crap.
cost $30 million, and The Empire cost $18.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Yep.
This movie is so ridiculous how much money they spent. They get in an elevator. We hear the girl from Ipanema. I think this is the origin of that as a running gag in all sorts of things. Is the girl from Ipanema as the classic Muzak.
Maybe.
We have army guys climbing over cars. We're pulling out guns. We're dropping down, rappelling down the side of a building.
Ridiculous.
The guards run up to the same guy they asked for directions. They said, do you see two guys go by? He's like, yeah, I sent him that way. And he says, thank you.
Thank you.
And they all charge by.
It's a big loud yell. Everyone's like... Yeah.
They start running up the stairs. Elwood and Jake get out of the elevator. Elwood pulls out his can of spray stuff and torches the controls of the elevator. Then they get inside where the assessor's office is or whatever, and they start blocking those glass doors with a whole bunch of furniture. And they get to the assessor's actual office, and it says, back in 5 minutes. So they wait. Meanwhile, guys are still charging up the stairs. Finally, someone comes to the door and opens it. And who do we have as the clerk at the assessor's office?
A very young Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. I think it's just like, hey, you want to do this thing? Sure. Yeah. And they grab him. They carry him back. They put him on the desk. They hand him the money. Cops are charging up, getting through the doors, crashing through windows. We cut back to Steven Spielberg, who is stamping the document.
I love it's also official.
It says, here's your receipt. And at that moment, handcuffs come on and they turn around and there's about 1 million cops with guns pointed at them.
Yep.
They made it.
They did it. They were on their mission from God.
Yep.
And for their sins that they did to complete this mission,
yep,
they're put in jail.
Yep. And we hear Jailhouse Rock.
Walk through a party in the county jail. Prison band was there, they began to wail. The band was jumping and the joint began to swing. You should have heard this knocked out jailbird sing, let's rock.
Great performance. And apparently the whole band got put in jail.
Yes.
They don't seem that unhappy, really.
Well, they probably got taken care of. Julia, Jake, and them.
Apparently, Joe Walsh from the Eagles is one of the prisoners in the jail.
Oh, wow.
He's like the blonde guy in front. And the prisoners, they all love Jailhouse Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And then the great thing is, as we're playing this song, then we cut to Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles and James Brown all singing little lyrics from Jailhouse Rock to incorporate them within the credits. And then I love that the final one we get is the whole crew all sitting there singing Jailhouse Rock. I like that. I like that a lot.
Landis did that a lot at the end of. Well, I mean, he does it like the end of Animal House. It's the whole crew, right? Yeah, and as the credits are going up, yeah.
Yeah, well, when you get in Animal House, of course, you get the What Happened to Everybody.
Right, which is great.
Which is great. And we get at the very end of this movie, which is a running joke from Animal House, go to Universal Studios, ask for Babs.
That's right.
And that's a joke out of Animal House.
That's right.
We've reached the end of the Blues Brothers.
Such a shame.
A little more to say about it. So Lou Wasserman, who's the head of Universal at this time, he did not like this movie.
What a surprise.
He hated it. I think he was probably really angry that they spent, $18 million extra than what he had budgeted for them. Yeah. And they had not wanted Aretha Franklin or James Brown or any of those people because those acts weren't popular. They wanted young, popular musicians out of the Universal MCA catalog. Mm-hmm. They didn't want these people. And it sounds like he didn't want so many black musicians.
Not a surprise.
And so when they went to release the film, they said, well, we're not going to give it a wide release. We're going to put it in like half the theaters that you normally would because we think this movie sucks and is going to tank. And then this is really weird is they said, we're not going to play it in any white neighborhoods. Because so they said, we're not going to play it in Westwood. And they and this is what I read is that they said, A, we don't think white people will want to go see it because it's a movie about black people. And B, we're worried that black people are going to come to white neighborhoods and maybe commit crimes.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. That is my understanding of that decision process. Wow. Isn't that just horrible?
Ignorant and stupid.
Yeah.
And ridiculous.
But surprise, surprise, this movie did great.
Yeah.
Made $115 million, one of the biggest hits of the year.
Phenomenal, man.
Yeah. And of course, this is just at the moment of the rise in home video. And so this becomes one of those movies that people rent and own in all sorts of versions and people dressed up as the Blues Brothers. And I hear maybe they even talked about a sequel at some point. I'm not sure if that ever got made. But these are certainly beloved characters.
So it never happened in your mind.
I look, I don't know everything about film, and maybe it happened. I'm just not familiar with it.
I would agree with you. I don't think it ever happened either.
Yeah.
It was such a terrible fucking sequel, man.
I've never seen it.
You shouldn't. It's so disgusting.
I mean, it's really sad. John Landis has this incredible run of films.
Yeah, he does.
And then there's the Twilight Zone where there's the helicopter accident, and it seems like he never quite came back from that. I mean, I don't want to speak about what happened with him,
right?
But his movies after that point, I mean, like Beverly Hills Cop 3 is just a horrible film.
And Eddie said he'd never work with Landis again after that movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, some directors are like that, Steve. They go on their run. Like Walter Hill had a nice run for a while in the 70s, early 80s. Same thing with Friedkin. Friedkin had a nice little run. So a lot of these directors have these nice little compact runs over a few years, and then they just can't quite capture that again. Well, McTiernan, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And what we should say, making movies is really hard.
It is.
And it's sometimes a miracle that they ever work, and Landis had a whole bunch of miracles from Animal House, Trading Places, American Werewolf in London, this. Yeah. I mean, that's a great set of movies.
And Up All Night, I think.
Up All Night, yeah.
Yeah, the Jeff Goldblum one with Michelle Pfeiffer. Very young, beautiful Michelle Pfeiffer. But ironically, Steven Spielberg, someone who has lasted for decades, is in this movie. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on the Blues Brothers?
Was there anything else? Like, I'm sure did it nominate anything? Did it get nominated? Any songs got nominated for anything? Oh, that's a shame. Here's what I would say: it's such a fun movie. It's a fun movie to revisit. As Steve did with his child, I think you should share it with your kids because it's a positive.
Lots of swear words.
There's lots of swear words, but there are edited versions
and lots of bad behavior
that don't have the cuss words in them, which is how I discovered the film the first time on on cable network with all the cuss words cut out. Still enjoyable film, edited or unedited. It's a phenomenally enjoyable film. Great music. And hey, it teaches your kids about these incredible musicians like Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin and James Brown, exposes you to them so they can enjoy their music and pass that on to their kids someday. So it's just a great film and all. And it's good music from the Blues Brothers. Really fun songs there. And the story overall is what? Is saving kids from being put out on the street. And that's a positive thing, no matter. And they took care of Nazis. It's a very positive film, man.
I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning, which is I really think that Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi and John Landis had a mission to bring back this great music. And man, they do. The music is so great in this movie. And it's such an odd movie because it's got this Bugs Bunny level of ridiculous comedy. Yeah. You have the great comic chops of Belushi and Aykroyd, who are just... The way they play off each other is fantastic. Yeah. You have these huge action sequences, and you have these great musical numbers. I mean, it is a really unique movie. It is really fun. It's really joyful. And I'll tell you, when I finished the film with my 7-year-old kid and the music is playing, he was dancing. Of course. And he was dancing so much, he said, "Dad, videotape me." So I have multiple super cute videos of my kid dancing to the Blues Brothers.
That's great.
That's awesome. So that's what we think of the Blues Brothers. Of course, we want to hear what you think. You can reach us on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, on iTunes, on Spotify, on Stitcher, a whole bunch of other places. If you want to suggest a movie for us to do, you can do so on patreon.com/the-Cine-Files. We'd love to hear your suggestions. If you want to reach me, you can reach me on Twitter at SR Morris. John, where could they reach you?
You guys can always reach me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram. See all the stuff I'm doing there, all the stuff on Collider. Listen, I'm covering sports now, wrestling.
Oh, that's right.
All this stuff that's going on in my world now. I've expanded past movies. I'm still doing movie talk on the network. Still doing
top 10.
Top 10, yeah. I'm still doing. And Outlaw Nation is probably going to go on hiatus for a while. I've got another show that's coming out soon. I'm going to announce soon, new podcast. That'll be fun. But yeah, I'm always doing stuff. So follow me there.
The Outlaw Nation will never die.
Well, sure.
We're strong. I'm a member of that.
You
nation.
are, man. I appreciate
It's a strong
that.
nation.
The nation is strong. There will be another iteration
it's
of
like
it,
a sleeping giant. Someday it will rise again.
That's right. Like the Ali, what does it say in the When We Were Kings? You can wake up that sleeping giant. You can do whatever you want on a sleeping elephant. Once a sleeping elephant wakes up, it tramples everything it sees. So we shall see what will happen with the Outlaw Nation. But anyway, follow me at The Roca Says. You can see all the stuff I'm doing. And I'm having a great time right now with all the varied amount of subjects I get to talk about on multiple shows. So
that's awesome, dude.
Very blessed.
All right. So that's it for this week. We will see you next time on the Cine-Files.
Wait. I want to say one last thing. Steve Morris.
Yes.
We did this in honor of Aretha Franklin.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Aretha Franklin song?
Think from this.
This is really your favorite Aretha Franklin song.
I mean, look, I will go back to that version of Natural Woman that she did that literally had me weeping today.
Right.
I love Respect. There's so many of them that are great, but there's some about this moment in the Blues Brothers I just love. It pops in my head all the time. What about you?
It's Natural Woman. Just the way she sings that song is like, damn, it is so moving and powerful. And you're right, that version is incredible. And she's a lady that, just incredible music that really gets you into the right mood for whatever you're in the mood for.
Yeah.
So just much love to her. And we lost an incredible artist, but artist who gave us many years of great hits.
6 decades.
6 decades of
performance.
music, yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Okay, that's it for this week. We'll see you next time on the Cine-Files.